Episode 2. Yep, same outfit, same chair, same spot. Not very good with that creativity, eh? No, it's the same day. I'm just trying to get into the groove of things. It's my first time as a YouTuber. I'm always making fun with my wife. I tell her because her name's Rachel, and I'm always telling her, hey, Rachel, you should start a YouTube channel. And I got this voice that I do for her, but I'm not going to do it here. But yeah, let's get to it. Just the other day, a good friend of mine and I were discussing something that I found very intriguing that I wanted to share with you, and I feel as though you would also find it intriguing. It's the concept of dimensions. Um, so basically, if we look at life, or what they call one dimension is basically the concept where life is linear. So life is just a straight line. Um, and then the concept of two dimension means life has now not just the straight line, the horizontal, it also has the vertical. So in two dimension, when you meet an obstacle along your horizontal, you're able to overcome it by jumping over. So basically taking advantage of the vertical and vice versa. And to take it a step further, there's now the third dimension. So the third dimension is where you not only have horizontal and vertical, you also have the width. So you have the width, the height, the depth, the length, and that's the world that we live in. You see, the concept of or the understanding that we live in a three-dimension world enables us to function in a way that helps us understand and overcome obstacles that we encounter in our way. For example, if let's say I was playing a sport, if as some of you have played, I'm a bit old, so I played some of the old 2D games. What would happen is, you could only walk in a straight path, and if you encountered a problem, that obstacle was really a hindrance. But living in the third dimension allows us to maneuver in the physical in a way that whenever we meet a physical obstacle, we're able to just think and walk around it and overcome it. Now, the third dimension is a beautiful place to be. It's a place where we take advantage, full advantage rather, of our senses. Sight, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and using those senses, we're able to maneuver around our environments, and it has enabled us to, create the world that we live in. I sometimes think of the world before all these technological advancements. Actually, let me drift back. I'm curious as to how we are where we are today. I read in my history books that thousands of years ago, the Greeks, they were building temples. They were building these large buildings like the Romans, the Colosseum, even the Hebrews. They were building the great Temple of Solomon, and all these structures. We see the structures such as the pyramids in Egypt. And I wonder how just less than 100 years ago, our first indigenous president, Kamuzu Banda, came to Malawi, and in some of the districts that he visited, people were still naked and living in mud huts. If there's something I would love for history to explain to me, is how we have such a discrepancy in human civilization and advancement, where in certain parts of the world they're building these colossal edifices, and yet in other parts people are living in mud huts, naked. But anyways, let me not drift away from what I was trying to discuss here. It's not about the mud huts. It's not about advancing. Only the historians can give us answers to that. But for me, I want to discuss the fourth dimension. You see, we've been taught how in history, for a very long time, The leaders and those who conquered the world were known as physical giants. So these were people who were literally in stature, they were superior to others, in skill that involved their hands and involved their strength. They were greater than others, and by being bigger, stronger, they were able to conquer others. And then when we go along in history, we meet next category of people who are the intellectual giants. So now you no longer needed to be bigger and stronger to beat someone. You could just be more cunning. You could use your mind. You could use strategy. And by taking advantage of strategy, taking advantage of your mental prowess, you're able to overcome the physical giants. Even though the physical giants are still prominent and they'll always play a part, but if someone comes in and they're superior intellectually, then they overcome the physical giant. Now, I want to view that as 2D and 3D. So the physical giant, this is a 2D world. The intellectual giant, this is now the 3D world. The guy who sees a bit more, is able to take advantage of a bit more. And now I want to introduce you to 4D, the fourth dimension, a dimension which is superior to 3D, because in 1D, 2D, and 3D, we have the obvious obstacle of objects impeding our progress. Let me put it this way. In 2D, in the linear, when you have an object standing in the way of someone who is in a linear 2D world, and if it's high enough vertically, they cannot get over it. The same thing in the 3D. When you're in a 3D world and you encounter an object, let's say an enclosement, like a building, say with no walls, with a concrete roof, and you're enclosed in it, even as an intellectual giant, in the 3D, there's nothing that you can do to overcome that obstacle. But now there's the 4D. Now 4D is a whole different world. 4D is a world of limitless possibilities. In the 4D world, which is the world that you can enter into only by taking advantage of certain principles and ideas that I'm going to share later on. But basically, in the 4D world, you live in a limitless world. If you meet an obstacle along your path, you simply move it, or you simply go through it, and you go through it without touching it. Let me give an example. 4D operates in much the same way, for example, radio waves operate, or the way, let's say, Wi-Fi works, to simplify it. If I have my router in my living room, for instance, or in my office, the Wi-Fi connectivity is still accessible through the walls in my bedroom, in my lounge, and my Wi-Fi is so strong, I can still access it even outside the house. So that's sort of a physical representation of 4D, though it goes beyond that. Now, what I want to discuss today is 4D in regards to incorporating the rise of the spiritual giant. Like I said, if we take a couple of steps back, there was the physical giant. The physical giant was able to overcome everyone from his physical strength, his ability to overpower everyone. And then came the intellectual giant, who he was a giant also in his own right, and that by using his mind, by using his ability to think, he was able to overcome even the physical giant. Now comes, and there is coming, the rise of the spiritual giant. The spiritual giant is someone who's operating in 4D, someone who knows no limits, someone who, no matter what comes their way, can overcome. If you're following so far, I'd like you to hit that like button and subscribe button and share this video. I'm going to stop it right here. This is part 1, and I hope I have your attention and you tune in to part 2, the fourth dimension. I'm going to take you on a journey that's going to open your mind to some things you could never imagine. Thank you for watching.